BBC Radio Berkshire with Tony Blackburn.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Well, he's worked with everybody, actually. He's worked with people like Mick Jagger, Tom Jones, Krista Berg, Randy Crawford, Robbie Williams. And, of course, he was in Dire Straits as well. Saxophonist Chris White is going to be my special guest. Coming up in a moment, right here.
BBC Radio Berkshire.
And Chris White from Dire Straits is here with me now. Hello, Chris.
Morning, Tony. How are you?
It was just your bad luck to get me today. You know, any other day you could have chosen.
I'm absolutely delighted to be in a room with a broadcasting legend. Tony.
Well, thank you very much indeed. It's very sweet of you. You could have become a swimmer, of course, couldn't you? At the age of...
You've done some research.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, you were a great swimmer.
When I was at school in Bristol, I swam for the county. Yeah, I really enjoyed. I liked that. But saxophone took over.
Well, absolutely, and you couldn't do both. It was not playing a saxophone while you're swimming.
Underwater saxophone doesn't sound great, no.
Well, see, I've always thought, though, with swimming, one of the most boring things to do, because you're constantly getting yourself damp, aren't you, the whole time? I mean, doesn't that get boring? Seriously, Chris.
It didn't. I loved it. It was just, really? I can't really explain it now. I still love swimming, actually.
Oh, you still do it? Yeah?
And not like that. If I'm on holiday with the kids or something, I'll get in the sea. But no, I loved it at the time. It was I don't know, something about the discipline. I was swimming before school, in the mornings, during school, and then at the end of the day, I'd go and train. And it was, I don't know, it just did something.
Well, you don't swim in the Thames. David Williams will tell you.
I just heard that. No,
I know. He's obviously swallowed something. Must be. Yeah.
Poor bloke. No, I don't swim in the Thames.
No. You played with the National Youth Jazz Orchestra as well for a time. Was that so? What made you suddenly go from swimming to the sax? Yeah, it was a television program, wasn't it?
Well, I saw somebody on TV. And I think it was John Dankworth. I don't remember really, but I just remember seeing this and thinking, wow, that's fantastic. I want to do that. And went to school the next day. I'd played violin very badly at that point, and went to school the next day and said, I'd really like to play saxophone. And they had one in a sack in a cupboard.
Really?
And said, here you go, mate, take that home with you.
Oh, that was lucky.
No, absolutely. and it kind of went from there. Really.
It is a fabulous instrument, isn't it? I mean, it's one of my, I mean, I love soul music.
Yeah.
And the sax and the soul, some of those, they're absolutely fantastic. It's just, I don't know what it is. It is a very soulful instrument, isn't it?
I think it is, and that's where I come at it from, soul, as well.
You do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, initially there was a bit of jazz in there, but then actually it was Junior Walker who kind of turned my head with Roadrunner.
Yes. Roadrunner.
I just remember hearing that at a fairground. They were playing it on the big wheel. So every time the big wheel went faster, the thing sped up, but it just sounded fantastic.
But Dire Straits isn't soul, is it?
No.
So why Dire Straits then? I mean, how did you get into Dire Straits?
I had a call. I was doing all sorts of session work, as you kind of mentioned earlier, and I had a call one day saying, could you come and do Mark Knopfler's doing a film soundtrack? Could you come and play? There's one thing he needs. It'd be 3 hours. So I said, great, yeah, I'd love to. So I went along to Air Studios to play on this track, and it went really well, and the 3 hours turned into 3 days. I played on lots of that film soundtrack. And it just rolled on from there. Mark liked what I did. We worked together on other things, Aztec Camera, for example, we worked with them. And then come 85, he said, will you come and do the band? Will you come and do Dire Straits? And they asked if I would do the Brothers in Arms album, but mistakes you make. I'd committed to do a jazz album with a little band I was in, and it clashed. So I couldn't do that album, but I stayed for the tour.
How about the touring? I mean, is that something you enjoy?
I love playing live, Tony.
Really?
Absolutely. It's where I'm absolutely happiest.
But the actual touring itself is quite tiring, isn't it?
It can be grueling.
Yeah.
And we did one of the tours was something like 18 months away.
Wow.
10 days at home during that 18 months. And there was one period where we did 34 or 36 back-to-back gigs in Europe in about 28 cities. And it was at the end of that period, 36 nights with no night off.
That's a long...
Everybody was a bit loopy, to be honest.
Yeah. And I mean, it must be quite tiring as well. I mean, it must get tiring, the actual physical thing of packing bags, going from one place to another.
You develop a routine. Everybody develops a routine, and my routine was to never completely unpack the bag. So it would just take the clean bits out and tuck the dirty bits underneath, you know. And actually, quite quickly on a tour like that, you realise that you can't really go out and party every night. You do need to. Do need. So people were slipping off to the gym in the morning and taking it steady through the day, and it becomes, I don't know, it becomes like anything else, you know. But every night, fortunately with that band, you got this huge boost of playing a gig to people who really wanted to hear you play.
Well, talking about Dire Straits, here's something you might be quite familiar with, actually. Is that Chris White from Dire Straits? What time did you get up, Chris?
I got up at 6:30, but I was awake at 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you were awake at 5
I was
as well?
awake at 5. I wasn't up.
Fantastic. So many people you've worked with, but let's go to the Live Aid concert. That was something special at Wembley, wasn't it? And you played at that concert with Dire Straits.
I did. Right? It was fantastic. It was the most brilliant day. At that time, with Dire Straits, we were in the middle of a 13-night run across the car park in the arena. So we just went across to the stadium for the daytime. It was an incredible day. It also happened to be my 30th birthday that day. So
I wasn't there, but a very happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. No, I know you weren't there. We just talked about that. A brilliant day. Great to be involved in for all sorts of reasons, really.
But not only that, but you were also at Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
That was another concert, wasn't it?
That was another big one at Wembley. Much like
with Eric Clapton.
Yeah, Eric was in the band for that gig. Yeah, another brilliant day.
Is there anybody particularly that you're influenced by when you play the saxophone yourself? Is there a saxophonist that you particularly base anything on, or not really?
Well, I mentioned Junior Walker earlier. But
Walker, yeah.
Yeah, but actually, a lot of the soul sax players, but there's a guy called Michael Brecker who actually did record with Dire Straits before me, who was, for me, one of the greatest sax players. He sadly passed last year, but one of the greatest sax players of all time. Really.
You were going to do a tour with Pink Floyd, weren't you? But you had a motorbike accident.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, how
have been doing your research?
I try. But is it easy to go into an established band and as a musician as well? I would have thought that was quite, because I mean they're all there and suddenly you're invited in. Is that an easy thing to do or not?
It's it is an easy thing to do in the sense that if people get to the point of asking you to come along and do something, they know that they want something contributed to what they're doing usually. They don't always know what, but they know something. No. So there's a kind of a period of just feeling things out. For example, with Mark, there's now quite a long sax solo on Romeo and Juliet, and there was never saxophone on Romeo and Juliet before we went into rehearsals in '85 for the Brothers in Arms tour, and they were playing Romeo and Juliet, and I was standing there. Mark stopped singing. And very cheekily, I thought, well, I'm dying to play on this, so I'll have a go. So I had a go, and Mark was kind of listening, and we played, and it finished, and he said, I think we'll have that. So that was it. It was in, and that's kind of how it usually works. Sometimes people know exactly what they want, and they even tell you what notes they want.
Who are the most interesting people you've worked with? I mean, you've worked with Robbie Williams, Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
I actually went to see Paul McCartney when he was in Birmingham. And I was invited in. He does a warm-up session, doesn't he, before he goes on? And he didn't sing very well. I've got to be honest with you.
It was warm-up, Tony.
No, well, it was warm-up, but
warmed up.
But he hasn't got the greatest voice now, has he? It's probably because of age now, is it?
Gosh, I don't know. Last time I heard him, I was actually stunned at how good it's still sounding.
Really?
He's still singing
Perhaps
in those very high key. He's still singing in those very high keys.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if you do...
Most people adjust a little as they get older, and you find actually the pitch drops a little.
Imagine if you were a Bee Gee.
Oh, wow.
Give up.
Yeah, give up. Give up.
But was he interesting to work with, Paul McCartney?
He was. I first worked with him.
He's a lovely guy, instead.
Lovely guy. I first worked with him on a movie, a film he did called Give My Regards to Broad Street. And actually, I'll own up now, I was so starstruck, I could hardly say a word. I don't know how old I was, but I was certainly old enough to not be like that. But something about being in a room with a Beatle who I'd grown, it was the seminal stuff that I'd grown up with. just left me a bit speechless.
I'll tell you what, we'll talk about more of the other people that you've worked with in a moment, but right now let's have a bit of music, shall we? And here come the Animals, and Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. This is BBC Radio Berkshire, 27 minutes past 12. Of course, has been with Dire Straits, and also worked with people like Robbie Williams and Krista Berg and Randy Crawford. You were saying she was. I love Randy Crawford. I think she's great.
Yeah, well, it was great to work with Randy. Did an album, some solos on an album of hers quite a few years ago now. She was stunning to work with. Somebody like Randy, you think she could pick up the phone book and just sing the phone book and it would sound great. Really. Just great voice.
So you're reforming not Dire Straits, but it's going to be called Straits. Is that right?
It's the Straits. Yeah. We were approached about. Mark is very clearly, Mark Knopfler is very clearly on record that he doesn't want to revisit that period. He's got his own solo stuff going on now, very successfully. But we were approached about doing a charity event for the Lord's Taverners. Yeah. So we decided to put the best band we could together, and we got Steve Ferroni from Tom Petty's band in drumming with us, and some great guys. So we did this concert at the Albert Hall, which went amazingly well. I have to say, it was a very humbling experience, really. The response was superb. As a result of which, people kind of said, well, how about you come and do something for us, and let's see if we can keep this rolling. So the Straits is in existence, and we are about to go into rehearsal for a small UK tour in October.
How many from the original Dire Straits is in there?
There are three of us. Three of us there. Alan Clark, keyboard player, myself, and Phil Palmer, guitar player, who's very well. He's played with lots and lots and lots of people too.
Yes. So you can't call yourselves Dire Straits because that's the
no, and we wouldn't. We are playing that material, but we certainly wouldn't want anybody to misunderstand and think they were coming to see Dire Straits. There was no attempt to.
But three of you were in Dire Straits anyway. So So what's this tour going to? I mean, you're touring Great Britain or the world, or
we're touring the UK to start with, starting in Birmingham on the 3rd of October and finishing up in Manchester on the 17th with quite a few places in between, Bristol, Colston Hall, and
anywhere near here,
the Colston Hall or near here. Colston Hall, we're right in the middle, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, I suppose London would be not
London.
Far,
yes, it's the Hammersmith Apollo in London.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
which is on the 12th of October.
When you say you're rehearsing, I mean, you all get together. I mean, presumably it doesn't take long to get all these things together, because or does it?
Well. They were very complicated arrangements, actually.
Yes.
The Dire Straits arrangements. So, for people who haven't played it before, there's quite a bit of work to do to get it in place. But we're pretty much there.
And when is this going to start again? I think you told me just now.
Well, the 3rd of October is Birmingham, but we've got a kind of.
No, it's not October. Rocktober.
Rocktober. I bow.
I always call it Rocktober.
I apologise. Rocktober. However, in Reptember, in the 20th of Reptember, we're going to play Brighton. We got a kind of warm up gig at the Concord 2 in Brighton, which is a really great little rock and roll venue. It's going to be steamy, sticky. And we're really looking forward to
Steamy and sticky.
Can I say that on BBC Radio Berkshire?
Of course you can. You can say anything you like here,
I just did.
You can say anything you like, because I'm not here tomorrow.
Excellent.
Nothing at all. I must just ask you very quickly, well, good luck with that tour. I'm sure it'll do very well. I mean, the tickets are on sale now, I guess, aren't they? Yeah.
They are.
And what was it like working with Mick Jagger?
Mick, it was very interesting. He's the public persona is what we all know, and in the studio he was quite a very, very focused man, very focused and quite clear about what he wanted. So it was great to do, but quite a working kind to do.
I mean, he's in great shape, isn't he? I mean, fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I saw him the other day. He's still rocking and rolling, and he's thinner than he ever was, I think. I don't understand it. And somebody, it was Cilla Black, actually. I was doing a show with Cilla Black on the radio, and she was telling me that, of course, she knew the Beatles and the Rolling Stones in those early days. The image of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, you always thought the Rolling Stones were the wild and wacky ones.
Yes.
But in fact, it was quite reversed. In their private life, it was these Beatles that were wild, the Wild Group,
is that right?
And the Rolling Stones were the really, out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was. You're right. Publicly, everybody thought it was the other way around.
But what you said there was quite interesting, because you said Mick Jagger was very businesslike.
Very, very.
And the image is not like that at all, is it? I mean, it's very sort of rock and roll and throwing TVs out of bedrooms and things like that, but it's not necessarily it.
Yeah, not necessarily him. Right. And he's known to be very very hands-on with the business, with his business.
Well, it certainly lasted a long time, hasn't it? I actually, funny enough, prefer the Rolling Stones now than I did in the 60s.
So do
I don't know what the music has lasted better, hasn't it?
Yeah,
it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, and what's great also is now one of the great benefits of the internet is that my son, who's 18, and my daughter 14, they're listening to that stuff now and they think it's great.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
Yeah, it's all so accessible now.
Yeah, I've got a 14-year-old daughter. I've got a 38-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter, and she loves the 60s music as well.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, fabulous. And it's been great having you here, Chris. Thank you very much.
It's been a real pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thanks. And good luck with the tour.
Thank you, Tony.
Not the Dire Straits, but the Straits.
The Straits. Thank you very much.
I'm sure it will do really, really well. Here's Carly Simon, and coming round again right here at BBC Radio Berkshire.